Well, the battle for the soul of America rages on in D.C., and we're here to give you all of the highlights right here on Christy Lee's D.C. Dispatch. My name is Scott Armstrong from Rebunked News and the Grand Theft World podcast, filling in for the great Christy Lee. And you guys, okay, so it is day 165 of the second Trump presidency, and there's so much happening right now. Trump-era policies are finally laying the final nails in the coffin of the radical left agendas. We're going to be celebrating it, talking about it today. Gas prices are falling, especially going into a holiday weekend. This is unheard of. And then a new 60-day ceasefire has been brokered in the Middle East. So we're going to unpack all of that today, and actually a lot more. I got a lot of stories here for you guys. But first, we're going to check in with our D.C. correspondent, Kara Castronova, to give us an update. Kara, how are you doing out there?
Good today. Exciting day at the White House. We actually have Mike Lindell here, who is meeting with some administrators. So that's exciting news for the network. Also, everybody's looking forward to, obviously, the 4th of July weekend and the gas prices, as you mentioned, that have gone down. And what's making, I think, the rounds the most is people talking about how the mainstream media is being forced to say positive things about President Trump, that gas prices are at a 4-year low. So please check out this compilation of the mainstream media talking about those low gas prices.
It's pretty good news for millions of drivers expecting to hit the road for the 4th of July weekend.
It looks like gas prices are about to get cheaper.
Gas prices are currently the lowest that they've been since 2021.
They're the lowest since 2021.
Hitting a 4-year low.
This doesn't just apply locally. Trends are being seen nationwide,
including in Michigan, where it's about 42 cents cheaper to fill up than it was this time last year. Pennsylvania, Illinois, Nevada, a number of other states seeing significant drops.
Gas prices are much lower than we have seen in recent years.
$2.68 per gallon, or more than a dozen stations in Duval and St. Johns County.
The national average could fall below $3 as early as September.
This translates to Americans spending about $500 million less on gasoline this holiday weekend versus last.
Epic.
So that makes me smile.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that's epic, fantastic. They're just having to eat their own words. That's so great.
Absolutely correct. And I personally am very excited about this next clip. Obviously, transgender males that are posing as females, participating in female sports has been a thorn in my side for a long time. I'm a former boxing champion, and I know the differences between male and female strength. So recently, this is coming out that UPenn is updating swimming records set by Leah Thomas, the male who was swimming as a female, settling with feds on transgender athlete cases. So this is such great news, and I'm reading you this directly, and I just pulled this up from The Guardian, that the University of Pennsylvania on Tuesday modified a trio of school records set by transgender swimmer Leah Thomas and said it would apologize, this is great news, to female athletes disadvantaged by her participation or his participation on the women's swimming team, part of a resolution of a federal civil rights case. And Secretary McMahon, who is amazing, I've actually got to meet her here at the White House, and she's very friendly, very sweet, spoke about this today on Fox News along with Riley Gaines. They're very happy to hear this news. This is something that this administration has fought really hard for, and that includes President Trump and Secretary Kennedy. So please check out Secretary McMahon speaking on this topic today on the news.
Signed an executive order on, which was that men will not be able to compete in women's sports, was acknowledged by the University of Pennsylvania. We have signed an agreement with them, and we hope that that agreement is going to be a template for other universities who acknowledge that there is no room for men in women's sports, not only during the competition, but also in the locker room and other intimate spaces where these women were required to be with males who changed in front of them. So this is a big deal. The university is apologizing. It is taking away the titles that were incorrectly given to men. It has stated that it will not have anything on its website other than the fact that they are complying, with Title IX. We are just very pleased with the outcome that we had today. It's an utter triumph for President Trump and for the administration, but mostly for the women and girls who will come behind the Riley Gaines and the Paula Scanlons and others. And they've really laid the groundwork for them to be successful. And the star of the hour really is Riley. And I know she's on for you to ask about that.
So just really good stuff going on right now in America. I can't even imagine what would have happened if this presidency went the other way with all this transgender stuff and what it means for women. And I am personally hoping that they strip the gold medal from the person that allegedly is a female that won in the Olympics. And I'm curious and interested to see how the Trump administration handles the Olympics that will happen in 2028, whether or not they plan on barring the visas for transgender athletes coming into this country wanting to beat up on females. So, that's, my very biased hope. I'm a reporter, but when it comes to men and in women's sports, I'm very biased because, like I said, I was an athlete and it defined me in many ways. And I just feel so terrible for these young women that are getting their titles stripped. And this is such a move in the right direction, in my opinion. And speaking of indoctrination, if you guys could pull up that press release that just came out on HHS, Secretary Kennedy doing great things at HHS, really chipping away at this indoctrination of children. HHS issued a policy to stop the radical indoctrination of children and ensure parental oversight for teen pregnancy prevention program grants. So this is big news coming out of Washington, D.C. The United States Department of Health and Human Services, through the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Health, announced today the release of this program for teen pregnancy prevention, clarifying the federal funds may not be used to indoctrinate America's children with radical ideologies or other inappropriate material. The notice safeguards the rights of parents to protect their children from content that undermines their religious beliefs, consistent with the Supreme Court's recent decision in Mahmoud versus Taylor. That was just this year in 2025. And obviously, this is all about, Planned Parenthood and their indoctrination to push abortions on teenagers, to push risky sexual activity, obviously, and to possibly, try to convince these teenagers to have abortions without their parents' consent, without their parents' knowledge, against, the family's religious beliefs. So it will be interesting what comes out of this and if anybody's going to challenge it in court. But I don't think there should be, in my opinion, any problem with parental consent when it comes to abortions. Is very difficult for a young child to make these decisions, and the state should not be making them. So HHS releasing that today, which is, again, big news in terms of parental rights. Trump on Truth Social today, please pull that one up too. Everybody's talking about Zohran Mamdani. Everybody's speaking about him and this possible new mayor of New York, that he's a communist, that he's a socialist. A lot of people think that he didn't really win the election. President Trump said, as president of the United States, I'm not going to let this communist lunatic destroy New York. Rest assured, I hold all the levers and have all the cars. I'll save New York City and make it hot and great again, just like I did with the good old USA. So that's President Trump weighing in on that big election in New York. Everybody's talking about Zohran Mamdani. Can he win the mayorship of New York? So President Trump weighing in there, just like so many others. People are obsessed. And lastly, Kristi Noem on Alligator Alcatraz. We did a big report yesterday where the president went down to view the facility, Ron DeSantis' facility down there in Florida in the Everglades, where alligators will basically be acting as correctional officers. Here's Kristi Noem today speaking more on Alligator Alcatraz.
These are deranged individuals that other countries released out of their prisons, out of their mental institutions, and sent them to America to roam on our streets and perpetuate violence against our citizens. President Trump is just trying to follow through on what he promised the American people, and that's to get the worst of this worst out of this country so that they can raise their children in safety and apply the law equally to everyone, bring justice back to America, secure our border, but also get these dangerous criminals out. And I'm just so proud of him. This facility down in Florida is what I think should be the model for every single state. Go out there and help us partner to provide an opportunity to detain these individuals, to process them under due process, and get them out of our country as fast as possible. These kind of partnerships can happen everywhere. We just need governors and leaders to step up and do their jobs.
So that was Kristi Noem. And, there's talk of opening other facilities similar, like she mentioned, in conservative states, maybe Texas, where they could assist the federal government really in expediting, the removal of illegal criminals from the United States. So that's what's going on today at the White House. The president obviously busy lobbying House representatives to really push forward and get that bill approved so he could sign it by the 4th of July. So I believe that the president right now is probably on the phone as we speak with various lawmakers, making sure that bill gets passed.
Awesome. Well, Kara, thank you so much for your hard work on the ground out there, and we'll check in with you next time.
Thank you so much. Have a great show.
Dude, thank you. All right, guys, that was Kara Castronova out there in the field in D.C. doing the Lord's work because, D.C., man, I don't know how long I could last out there. So I really appreciate the team braving it out there. So, you guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with all the news coverage right here on Kristi Lee's D.C. Dispatch.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysts are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
All right, welcome back to Kristi Lee's DC Dispatch right here on Lindell TV. My name is Scott Armstrong, filling in for Kristi Lee today. We got a lot of awesome news to cover here. We're going to get into a little bit more in depth on some of the coverage and the stories that Kara talked about. First, let's just get the one big beautiful bill conversation out of the way. Now, I heard talk this morning that some changes were made from the Senate going back to the House. And so there might be some kerfuffles happening today, but we'll see. But it's back in the House today, and basically the House will be voting on it. And but I do have a clip here from yesterday that shows Trump in real time hearing. He was at a press conference and he heard in real time that the bill had passed, and there's some conversation around that. Let's check that out.
Thank you.
The bill is now passed in the Senate, but we are already hearing from some Republicans in the House who say they cannot get on board with the changes that were made to the bill in the Senate. What is your message to those holdouts?
Well, I just heard that about the Senate, and the bill just passed, and it tells you there's something for everyone. I mean, it's a great bill. There is something for everyone, and I think it's going to go very nicely in the House. Actually, I think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate.
And just to be clear, on the Medicaid cuts, you've promised not to cut Medicaid, said this is all just targeting waste, fraud, and abuse. Are you saying that the estimated 11.8 million people who could lose their health coverage, that is all waste, fraud, and abuse?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's going to be a very much smaller number than that, and that number will be waste, fraud, and abuse. And If you look, they took a much more liberal stance on the Medicaid situation than they could have. They had a tough stance and a weak stance. They took not a very strong stance on that to start off, and it's waste, fraud, and abuse, and everybody wants that covered.
What number is that? What analysis are you seeing?
I'm not seeing a number, but I know it's much less than the number you gave. And we really were very, very cognizant of three things. Social Security, we're going to take care of it beautifully. Medicare and Medicaid. And we are going to save it, whereas the Democrats are going to, you won't have it. They will destroy Medicare and Medicaid, and they have to because their numbers don't work. So it's not going to happen. They're the ones that have destroyed Medicare. They have made it so bad already, they're going to make it a lot worse. But now we'll be in charge, so we're going to have no problem with Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security. Thank you.
All right, so you heard it there from the boss man himself. They really do destroy everything, don't they? Those pesky Democrats. Jeez. According to House Speaker Mike Johnson, they intend to have the bill voted on sometime today or tomorrow. Now, in preparation for the show, I did pull up the itinerary for the White House, see if Trump was doing any public appearances, and there was nothing. It said no public appearances, nothing going on. So what Carol was saying, how he is probably literally on the phone, lobbying the House members, trying to get this bill passed is more than likely what's going on. Apparently there was some weather issues. So they were having some issues getting all of the House members back last night in time to get into the House. And so he said that assuming we have a full House, we'll get it through the Rules Committee in the morning, this morning. We'll move that to the floor, and hopefully we're voting on this by today or Thursday at the latest. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I know that this has just been in the forefront of the conversation for a very long time, and it'll be nice to move on to other topics. But hopefully this is a big win for America. I'm rooting for the border security. I'm rooting for, just bringing it back home. And like I said yesterday, we have the bandage on. We've stopped the bleeding, and now it's time to heal. So we'll see if this big, beautiful bill pushes us in that right direction. So I wanted to touch a little bit more on the gas prices. So I just think it's such a huge win. Going into these major holidays, whether it's Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, where there's a lot of people traveling, just historically, there always seems to be a situation where they just gouge the gas prices. That's just something we're all just used to. So for going into a major holiday weekend for the gas prices to hit record lows, the lowest since 2021, is undeniable. It's undeniable. And so we saw that clip earlier of the mainstream media being forced to report on this story. And they're calling it the Trump. Well, the media isn't calling it, but the nomenclature online is this is the Trump effect. The Trump effect. So they're not going to acknowledge that in the mainstream media, but we'll acknowledge it right here. The Trump effect is lower gas prices going into a holiday weekend. And so, according to Yahoo Finance, there's a couple interesting facts here. So crude oil is currently at $65 a barrel. And so when the article came out on Tuesday, that it was at $3.18 average per gallon, which is a 31-cent drop compared to the same day last year. So going into 4th of July weekend last year, we're 31 cents lower. And they're also speculating that gas is expected to go below $3 a gallon average by the end of the year. Like, drill, baby, drill. I'm ready for it. Now, this is a huge win. If nothing else, this is a physical, tangible thing that affects every single person. And it is a huge victory. And I just wonder at what point the media, the radical left will finally say, hey, maybe this isn't so bad after all. I'm grateful for this. Or will they just continue to their stubbornness, they will just descend further and further into poverty strictly out of their hatred for Trump. I mean, I've heard rhetoric like that. I can't remember. It was like one of those Stephen Colbert type characters who said, I don't mind paying $6 a gallon if it means defeating Trump. Something to that effect. They're so delusional and so psychotic that they would rather pay more for some misguided ideological stance that Trump is the most horrible person in the world and that all the MAGA conservatives, you know what I mean? It's just disgusting. So when it affects the pocketbook, that is the biggest metric. Grocery prices, gas prices, these are the things that people care about at the end of the day. And so movement towards some relief in that area is such a huge win. And it's really funny, comical to see the mainstream media forced to have to report on it. So that's a big win. And of course, I hope you guys have a wonderful and awesome 4th of July weekend. I'm going to be having a wonderful time myself. So I'm very grateful for that. Okay, so moving on to the next story. Also, Kara talked about this a little bit. So back in one of the first executive orders that President Trump signed was in early February 2025. He signed the Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports executive order. Okay, and it seems that Penn State has finally capitulated, and this seems like the dying gasps of the radical left agenda. Like, I think that this is a huge, like, they would never, ever capitulate to this type of ideological defeat in any other circumstances. So I know that they're being threatened with large sums of federal funding being withheld over this, but it's really interesting to actually see them capitulate. And so there's an article, according to The Hill, Penn agrees to a deal with the Trump admin on trans athletes over, and then they're removing William Thomas's record. William Thomas, who went in there and made a mockery of all of those female athletes, and now the title's been handed on to the second place winner. And I think that's just fantastic. So a little further in, so this comes after the Department of Education found that Penn violated Title IX, the federal law against sex discrimination, when it allowed William Thomas to join the women's swim team for the 21-22 season. And they are requiring the university to award William Thomas's title to the next place finisher and personally apologize to each impacted female swimmer. That is awesome. Okay. They should be ashamed of themselves. Okay. This paradigm of nonsense is over. No one's going to take it anymore. Okay. We're done with this. So we saw the statement from Linda McMahon. Grateful that the Department of Education is stepping in to help push that forward. And yeah, I mean, I thought we were getting rid of the Department of Education. See, I'm one of the guys, I'm like, yeah, let's just keep shrinking the government. Let's just keep on shrinking it. So anyway, great victory there. I'm very excited to see that. That's awesome. Okay, moving along here, we have the next story. So this is again a follow-up to yesterday's conversation about this horrific ice block app. And if you didn't hear yesterday, or if you haven't heard, there is an app that allows people to pinpoint ICE activity in their communities and other people to see ICE activities so that they can, one, be alerted to any sort of deportation raids or anything like that, but also it puts a target on the back of these law enforcement agents. Okay, this is a big deal. Now, we saw in Idaho over the weekend, there was a situation where firefighters and law enforcement were ambushed with a fake fire. Shots were fired. Last I heard, two first responders were killed and several wounded in this crazy standoff that took several hours. And then, well, there's a whole lot of speculation about it. Was this a shooter? Was this not? This is not the time or the place for that. But that type of situation is waiting to happen when you are doxing, pinpointing, and pointing out where law enforcement activity is in such a heated part of the conversation. That can only lead to disaster. So let's take a look here. This is a video of Kristi Noem talking about her response to this.
President today, Kristi Noem is with us. Okay, 700% increase against agents, and you've got groups that are, and I had Pam Bondi on about this last night, they are warning people. Are they not aiding and abetting in the law breaking? Are they not responsible for obstructing justice? And she was very open to looking into the criminality of it, or potential criminality of it.
Yes, absolutely. I believe, in my opinion, that they are. And that's why I'm so thrilled that Pam is willing to be proactive and go after those individuals that would perpetuate this kind of activity against our law enforcement officers.
Okay, there you go. So she referred. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to see Pam Bondi. So Pam Bondi is talking about possible legal referrals against the app developers. And I think there should be some accountability that you can't just go around doxing law enforcement. This is insane. So let's see what Pam Bondi has to say about that.
You know, we've had Tom Homan on many times on the program, and he's talked about a dramatic increase in violence against ICE agents. Yes. Over 450%. I mean, really scary numbers. If you have or put out an application or a warning system that ICE agents are in the area, Are you guilty of obstruction? Are you guilty of aiding and abetting in that case? And by the way, if you're a sanctuary state, does that status aid and abet, just the very status of it?
Yeah, and that's what he's doing. And people obviously are ICE agents, all of our federal agents who are working hand in hand on these task force, our federal agents from the Justice Department could be injured. He's giving a message to criminals where our federal officers are, and he cannot do that. And we are looking at it. We are looking at him, and he better watch out, because that's not a protected speech. That is threatening the lives of our law enforcement officers throughout this country. And shame on CNN. I just saw that for the first time when you showed it, that they're promoting that app. That's shame on them for doing that. That could hurt our law enforcement officers who are out there protecting them, protecting all of us every single day.
Okay, so that was Pam Bondi. She's looking into it, and I hope she does a little more than look into it. It seems like there's a lot of looking into things, but I digress. This could be a very easy win for Pam Bondi's for Pam Bondi and her team. You know, we saw the egg on the face after the Epstein client situation. We're not seeing any movement on holding the criminals from the previous administration accountable, like for actual crimes. Okay. But, you know, this could easily be something that they could get a big win for. Now, you know, I think that this app is absolutely atrocious and it puts law enforcement lives in danger. I absolutely condemn it wholeheartedly. Now, I'm going to get on my soapbox just a little bit here, because I do see, this is me, this is Scott Armstrong speaking, I see, by and large, the government as the enemy of the people. And our founding fathers did as well. They know the dangers of a tyrannical government. They knew that more than anybody in the world. And they wrote this beautiful constitution of ours to ensure and enshrine our ability to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government, okay? I don't think that this app falls under that, but I am a big proponent of private sector, like citizens taking their own freedom into their own hands and making robust systems to ensure our own safety from a tyrannical government. That is the essence of what the Second Amendment is all about, right? You know, I believe that people should be, like, everybody should have a 3D printer, and you can 3D print your own firearms. Like, I think they should teach that in school, man. Okay, I'm a Second Amendment all the way. And we are now entering a new landscape of complete asymmetric dominance of the government over the citizens in the forms of like drones, robots, like these Tesla robots, the robot dogs that you see. Like, this is crazy stuff. So I'm looking to the private sector to develop tools that we can use and deploy to defeat, you know, armies of government robots and drones that may come after me someday in case I'm not up to date on my vaccines. Okay. So I believe in the empowerment of the people through defensive technology as a check to government power. But the ICE Block app and the people responsible should be held accountable, because that is not what I'm talking about. If you have a problem with the law enforcement is there to carry out the law. You go and you change the law, and there's proper means and methods to do that. Of course, there's no advocation of violence here. I'm talking about checks to government power through defensive and resilient, resourceful citizenry. That's what I'm talking about. So that's my soapbox. But this particular app is egregious, and I hope that Pam Bondi and her team does do a little more than just looking into it. And I think we got time for one more quick story here, and I'm just going to cover this real fast. This is the Trump admin gets Israel to agree to a Gaza ceasefire and now asks Hamas to accept the deal. So this is late last night, and is according to Infowars.com. And of course, on a Truth Social post, Trump says that my representatives had a long and productive meeting with the Israelis today on Gaza. Israel has agreed to the necessary conditions to finalize a 60-day ceasefire, during which time we will work all parties to end the war. The Qataris, the Egyptians, who have worked very hard to help bring peace, will deliver the final proposal. I hope for the good of the Middle East that Hamas takes the deal, because it will not get better. It will only get worse. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And, you know, the Gaza situation, the Gaza-Israel situation, it's been an ongoing saga for many years. Like, no, you really, to fully understand that situation, it didn't start on 10/7. You have to really go back and study this situation in depth. And one of the things too is, like, both sides, whether you're talking Hamas or Israel, what they're known for is for breaking ceasefire agreements. So I really pray that this particular ceasefire holds and that there's peace in the Middle East and that we can continue to have peace all over the world. All right, guys, thank you so much. This is the DC Dispatch. My name is Scott Armstrong, filling in for Christy Lee, and stay tuned for more Lindell TV.